Welcome back to the Fine Roots. Today we got an interesting one. The weather has been quite rainy lately, so I don't know if it changes the mood, but I do feel like it kind of makes me more on the mellow side of things. And there are days where it just feels just cracked out, and there are days where it's just kind of mellow, you know. And I do feel like that's the balance in life, because I can't imagine what it's like to just be cracked out every day. And just as much as being sad for too long isn't great, and the same thing, just being happy all the time isn't sustainable. So I feel like a balance between the two is the healthier option. And here's why. If I was happy all the time, then I would at some point crash, because anything that goes up must come down. A better word for this is just to be content, and that's okay. Some days are just beautiful sparks and fireworks, but at the same time, if you have too much fireworks, something is ought to burn, and it's gonna cause havoc somewhere. And in the same way, if it is gloomy and dark all the time, then that's gonna have its own weight. So with that being said, let's get on to it. Today is going to be about living the truth or facing the lies. And I feel like this question brings me back to my childhood, where I was gifted a computer at the age of 5. And when I say gifted, I mean my mother bought the computer for me when I was 5 years old. I didn't know how to use it, but I was intrigued. For some reason, that was what I was attracting at that age. And so pretty much at the age of 5, I had a computer by my side. And I pretty much grew my hands on a mouse my entire life. And along the way of having a computer comes video games, and I've used or played video games ever since I was a kid. And I remember in my early teens, I pretty much spent most of my time inside playing video games, because I didn't know better. And now that I think back, I thought, I wonder what my life would look like if I didn't play video games. And a couple of outcomes could have happened. And at the same time, I do wonder whether or not that would be a good outcome or not. Because everything has led me to where I am today. And if it changed anything in the past, that would also change the outcome of where I am today. So I can ponder and wonder upon what would happen if certain action didn't happen the way it did in the past. Or I can just look at it as of like a canvas. What has happened has happened. And there's no change in that. But moving forward, I do have the option to change. If I'm content where I am, so be it. But if I'm not content with where I am, I do have the option to change. And that's pretty much what today's video is going to be about. And starting off with me having my computer at the age of 5. That was something that I grew up with, and I still play games here and there. But today, I'm not able to play like I used to play back in the day. Because back then, I was able to play for hours on end and days. Not days, but I could play the entire day, pretty much, and not get tired. And wanting to play the next day. But today, I can't do that. I have to, if I do play, I don't feel that urge to play anymore. It's just a filler for time, just kind of like a break, for instance, or just to get my mind off, take a break, like a mental break. And I can't just sit there and play for hours on end. The most I can do is maybe 4 hours or something like that. So things have changed, and this change is basically a core part of me, of who I am, or who I think I am. And to question what I grew up with comes with a lot of, I guess I have to face a lot of questions and wonder, because if I take away a part of my identity, of who I grew up as, then what do I become? Then that brings me to the next point, as in facing the truth, is one, I can tell myself that playing video games is who I am, and playing video games is what has brought me to where I am today. So one, I could go down that path, or two, question, does this behavior serve me for the future that I aim for? And that is an important question that I feel like it brings a lot of weight, because if I do certain actions, there's always a consequence for every action that I do. But does those actions align with where I'm headed? If it is, then keep doing it. But if there's a doubt, and maybe, or I'm trying to bend rules to kind of fit that mold, then I feel like I'm lying to myself. Because playing video games takes time. And as I grow up, I feel like time becomes one of the most valuable assets. And everything serves its purpose. Playing games has its purpose to perhaps stress relief, or just to enjoy something that's non-work related, perhaps. But it comes back to, does it serve what I want to do in the future, like the path I'm taking? And then again, that brings up the question of working out. I'm not a huge workout person. I don't work out every day religiously, but I know that I should. And frankly, if I think about working out and where I'm headed, I know that this is something that is going to serve me in the long run, both for physical health and mental health. And I heard there's a quote that says, not necessarily a quote, but if you have a strong mind but a weak body, you can't use it effectively, versus if you had a strong mind and a strong body that could carry the mind. So that kind of reminds me of, like, computers that has like a very strong graphic card, but it doesn't have like a strong cooling system to maintain it. Might as well just not have it. And in the same way, if you had a car that has a really strong engine, but the tires are in the brink of collapse, it wouldn't matter how strong of an engine that is if it wouldn't be able to drive. So in the same way, it reminds me of a lot of my action now has to be fine-tuned to go down the path that I want to take. So in a way, this brings me down to the salmon. A salmon grows up in a pond where it's given birth, and it learns its ways, and once it has learned its ways, it will part its ways into the ocean, where it has to learn new ways of living. And so that's kind of like becoming, like growing to a certain point where everything that I learn will face its trials. And this kind of also reminds me of the saying that once we grow up, we learn a lot of things, and once we're grown up, we unlearn a lot of things. And this is the part where I unlearn certain part of my identity, who I am, what I do. And that, as a result, will shape the future of the path that I take. So same thing with the salmon. If it's not willing to adapt to the ocean and its environment, and it uses its behaviors that it learned from a pond where there's no predators to run away from or swim away from, then it is just a matter of time before it falls. But if it faces the truth and faces life head on, it will quickly realize that it has to change and adapt. Otherwise, it's not able to survive. And this also, there's one movie that is notorious for this kind of view, and that is The Matrix. Will you take the red pill or the blue pill? If you take the red pill, you'll wake up and face the truth, and nothing will be the same. But if you take the blue one, you will live in a forever blessing lie. Both has its consequences, both has its challenges, both has its course, and the action is ours to take. It's us to decide. I know for sure that I'm embarking on the red pill path. Well, that sounds, I think a red pill path has a negative connotation, but I rather live a truthful life to myself rather than living a facade and a lie that I tell myself, or to, let's say, that I wouldn't want to face. For instance, let's say an example of this is I could lie to myself and say that video games is great, when personally I do feel like it doesn't serve me anymore. So that is a lie that I could carry on, because I could tell myself that I grew up like this, and I can create a story that could fulfill this facade easily. Or I could follow my sensation or the feeling inside that I have that tells me every time I play a game, I feel like I need to do something. Like there is a certain push that happens, a certain draw. It's almost like it doesn't feel good to just sit there and play. I don't feel content, to put it that way. So one, I can tell myself the lie and live like that. Or two, live how I feel like I should, and live according to my own truth. My truth is going to be the lies of many, and the lies of many is going to be truth of many. So pick and choose the potion. Either way, we all are going to the same destination. So there is no right, there is no wrong. It is just our truth or their truth. The choice is ours. And that is it for the Fine Roots today. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one. Cheers.